Southern Fried Podcast News Desk, conservative and Christian news brought to you each Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be covering news that affects America and you. From politics nationally and to the state level, we will discuss topics that are breaking each week and get your input as well. Join us each week for news from a conservative and Christian outlook. God bless America and God bless you. And good evening. Welcome to the SFP News Desk Christian Conservative News. This is our Sunday night political show, and I've been looking forward to it all day. Lots of news over the weekend, and there will be lots of news at just about any hour of the day as we head into the last 2 days of this election cycle, at least for the voting part and then ongoing, no matter what happens. So it's been a good day of church for us, and also it's been a good day to relax. And we did a couple of shows, did our Sunday morning show and then our prayer show, and now we're back for the news desk. Well, I will be at election headquarters, or not headquarters, excuse me, election voting precinct for me, not headquarters, although I will be going there when the end of the day is over for us. So polls are open 7, close at 7, and then we will shut her down and get everything packed up and the way it's supposed to be and delivered to election headquarters. And then at some point around 9-ish, Rob's going to be coming on. That's the plan, live with our election coverage. He will start that, and he may have some help. We'll let him introduce. And I will be along just as soon as I can after that is over. So we have to take everything down to election headquarters. I would say to be closer to 10 before I get on here, maybe slightly after. And then we will take that as long as we can. We do have a program the next morning. It's going to be a short night of sleep. So we will still do our morning show. And then we also have Mama Said, which will probably be possibly be a lot more about the election as well. We'll probably roll into that and cover some of that as well. By then, we will have more knowledge, obviously, probably from the morning show as well. Some of that will be dedicated to it. It's just the way it is. So all of our live shows for the next 2 or 3 will, including that is added in. So the morning show tomorrow, we'll be talking a little bit about it. And Mama Said we'll be talking about it a little bit more. And then Tuesday night, special programming, election coverage here at Southern Fried Podcast across all of our streams. And then right back into Wednesday morning show, and then Hump Day news. So all those shows will be impacted by the election. We'll talk about other things for sure. There'll be things to go on about, but that's going to dominate a lot of the coverage because of what's going on. And we've got hey Joe, good to have you in here. And we've got to cover all that news, and there's tons to cover, and nobody knows really what's going to happen. I'm going to cover several stories tonight that are sort of late breaking, sort of the latest flavor. Of course, President Trump was in Macon today. You know, they're hitting all the spots before election day, and we're going to talk about some of that. So tomorrow will be a lot of coverage about that as they move about throughout their day, as they do the late rallies and different stops, and then, of course, into election day. I anticipate the polling, the precincts to be very busy, although with in Georgia, with really close to 4 million voters already having voted, there's a little over 7 million what they call active voters on the roll. Me and Rob did a deep dive into this offline. We didn't do it online, but we did a deep look at this the other day. You can actually, anybody can do it. I say deep dive. We just took the time to roll through the data. All of that's live at the Secretary of State office. You can go to an interactive data and you can filter that. And that is within probably about an hour. I think it's about an hour old of data. So you can look at that by county. You can look at that across the whole state. We were looking at county percentages of how much was in. Now, there's going to be a lot of in person. Most of the counties were right around 50 or over 50%. In fact, one was around 60% already in from early voting. Catoosa County, which the county that I'm in, that I will be working in, it was over 50. Well, over there it was right around 50. We believe that to be a little over 50% because there was still voting going on that Friday. So I believe it is over 50%. So most of the counties in Georgia, there was one county that was down around 39%, but it's a very rural county and probably would do a lot of in-person voting. We're talking, very few votes. I mean, honestly, it's all counts, yes, but probably only 1,000, maybe 1,700. I mean, it's a very small county, not a lot of active voters. Now there is the thing called registered versus active, and there are people on the roll that are registered, but they're not active, have not voted in some time. Now that could change. I'm assuming that they would be kicked off if there was reason to be, but that's for some reason they're not active, but they are registered, and that number in the county was quite a few thousand votes there that were registered but not active, and so we'll just have to see. I anticipate it being very busy, but with all the early voting, it may just be a steady stream all day. I don't know that there'll be lines, but I anticipate late in the day, as it gets down to crunch time, those that haven't voted will be pushing to get in their precincts and vote. Now, there will be some areas that it's going to be long lines, I'm sure, because there's still a lot of people to vote. I mean, you still think about that, even in just Georgia, that's 3 million voters, give or take. I don't know the final tally, but even the national news is saying that Georgia's right around 4 million, and that's what we were looking at on Friday. And so it didn't change a whole lot. They were doing about 200,000 a day, 220,000 a day on most days across the state. And I'm thinking the day and I was looking at our numbers the 2 days that I worked, and just in that one precinct, and then listening to overall what those numbers were borne out. And it's really interesting in looking at some of the shifts in where they're spending their time. What I mean shifts is where are they shifting their attention to as they are getting down to crunch time. And it looks as though there was some breaking or somewhat breaking news over late week that Kamala's campaign had pulled about $2 million out of North Carolina and felt like that was money better spent elsewhere. So that's a toss-up state, swing state, whatever you want to call it. And so there's, it's interesting. Hey, Joe, good to have you. Hey, Cook, how you doing, buddy? Sorry for you, Cowboy loss, man. Tough game, man. Falcons pulled it out. A lot of injuries for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott got caught using some foul language, talking about his team. There's going to be a lot of attention on that team, but they're really struggling right now to generate. But I mean, he spread the ball around. I was looking at the data. I mean, he spread the ball around really well, and the stats. I mean, running game could be better. Of course, he went down injury. Some said bench, others said quit. I'm just going to assume it was Miami. I wasn't saying he did that wrong or did a lot about it, but there were a lot of people online saying he was benched, and others, they said hamstring to save face, and others said that he just quit. I don't think he quit, but a lot of injuries, and continue to be injuries, and so they were down a lot. So, but yeah, it's going to be a busy day, and I hope that most people have gotten out to vote. I would suggest getting out if you haven't voted, getting out as early as you can on election day. When you get late, you're probably going to run into some lines. People getting off work that said, "Hey, I haven't voted yet. I'm going to get out. I'm going to get it done." And you seem to get a nice push on election day. Everyone I've done, from that between that 5 o'clock and all the way up till about 6:30, and then there'll be a few that come in that last 30 minutes. and there'll always be, the couple that'll come in at the very last minute, two or three, four, they'll roll up in the same car or two cars, and they'll come in late. At least that's my. But again, it's a presidential. I haven't done that, but that's usually what I saw. I need coffee. The coffee is good. The coffee is good. We need coffee. Um, so some controversy across the United States in some areas, as we've seen precincts shutting down early. A very ugly video, and I forget where that was at, where there was a gentleman wearing, I think he was wearing a Trump hat, if I remember right. And I don't know the whole interaction. The video doesn't pick up the very beginning of it. It was ugly both ways. And it was interesting to read the comments and kind of take it. But when you got punches being thrown and foul language being thrown about, people in each other's face, and it was an ugly scene. It just shouldn't happen. I was wondering where security was. He finally threw the hat back behind the line and said, "Let's do it." And they wasn't gonna let him vote. And I don't know. It was just an ugly scene. And you had those scenes where the Pennsylvania, where they shut down early and said, we're done. People here can vote, but nobody else can. And there was still a lot of time left. They're supposed to step back there and absolutely do that. It was supposed to be the last, once you're officially at polls closed time, you get out there and you step behind somebody and the end of the line and say, "This is it." You tell anybody else that comes up, "Sorry, you can't vote." And we have had people roll up, the couple of minutes right after the vote or after the polls closed and say, "I'm sorry, it's too late." They rushed in. We'd already made the announcement, and that was something cool the other day. Of all the times that I've been at the precincts, I've never got to announce the polls are open, and it was kind of cute. But some people that tried to come in the door, I was going to be the greeter, so I was fixing to walk out the door. I was waiting to go out 3 minutes. Right around that time, the door started opening, so I knew it was voters coming in, trying to come in. So I opened the door and said, "I'm sorry, we're not open yet." And they asked me when. I said, "Well, I told them when the 8 o'clock, it was already voting." And so they said, just 2 or 3 minutes. And I said, "I do want to warn you, I'm fixing to yell very loud." This guy's a Vietnam vet. And he's like, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Well, that's what we have to do. We have to announce that the polls are open." He said, "How loud are you going to yell?" And I said, "As loud as I can." I said, "But I'll do you a solid here. I'm going to step over 2 feet. I won't be right in front of you. And if you need to, cover your ears." So some of the other election officials came out right about that time. They were opening the doors up because they were just going to leave them open. And right as it was about 30 seconds to go, and they were asking why we did that. And I said, "Well, it's just it's the way that we do it. It's from the old country, really. It's one of those things we've kept, and we announced, polls are open." So I got to do that. But it's really cool. And I was telling them, if you watch the videos that we did in our training, there's really good videos. I give the training videos are really good. That they did on the state level, and I like the guy that was over those and narrated those. But one of they had a lot of people involved with their office that got involved, but they had one guy that got dressed up in the old English clothes, and he would talk in this old English accent. It was really cute. I would try that today, but it probably would come out really bad. So I'm just going to yell, "The polls are now open." But that was the first time I ever got to do that. So it's just one of those cool things. If I never do it again, I can say I did it that one time. And they usually want somebody that's got I guess it means I got a big mouth. I'd be kind of loud. But yeah, and then so you have to go out at the end of the day. The polls are closed. You can, some of those people, they got some voices they can bellow across the holler, as they say, and you'll hear them streets over. Oh, um, but it's neat to be a part, and it's great, and it's really satisfying to be a part of this, of being a part of your country, a part of how it works. Like I said, a lot of people don't like jury duty, but and I like it to the point that I like taking part in how the mechanisms of how our country works. I was like anybody else when I was young. I've always voted. Always voted. Registered as soon as I could. I wanted to vote before I was even old enough. I was really into politics, but I never really got involved. I just went to work. We did that. Went to work, raised a family, and I paid attention to the news always the issues and stuff. But like, county commission meetings and stuff, have been a part. And I'm starting to really take part in that and some of the chamber work. Hello, Crispy. And get involved with stuff like that. Pay attention to those things. I've always watched the videos of them. I tried to, especially if there was issues I wanted to hear about. And sometimes I even watch the city ones, even though I'm outside the city. I'm just down the road from the city line, so I'm interested in what's going on in the city. So it's and I'm not one to want to cause a ruckus or anything, but I do. If I had something to say, I would, and I don't have a problem with doing that. But I just think we should be a part of this in some way, to be a part of what it is to be a citizen, and not just just going through life breathing the air. Just get more involved. And I have found that to be really satisfying. It was intimidating, to be honest, at first, because there was so much to learn. But there's great people around you, and we're always learning. There's always things you learn and things you have to remind yourself or be reminded of as you go back. And you're not in elections every day, and it's sometimes months in between times that you're doing that. So it's just good to have people there around you that we're always ready to assist each other and help each other, to remember everything that you got to remember. And there's always people a phone call away that can advise us if we get to a point that we can't remember something, you know, or that we just don't quite remember how to do something like that. So we're going to look at some news tonight about the election, and some of the news, the late news that's coming up, and just see where it takes us, and how many we can get in, however long we'll be on tonight. I do want to say, though, a couple of things off the top. Our election has came down to a couple of things, really, if you think about it. The latest things that have happened that's really, is really, because you can go on about issues and some people are just not going to pay attention. But isn't it amazing that Peanut and Fred have now become the central theme of all that's wrong in America? With these jackboot, uh, you know, armed agents that went into these people's homes. This guy was the rescue squirrel, and he was a TikTok star and all that. And the guys had him for years, and they actually used the money that he made to start a rescue place. And then I think it was a chipmunk or whatever it was. It was Fred. I was not aware of them, and I wasn't aware of that, that thing. But it's really gained a lot of traction. And the thing that's most alarming to people is just how much that they did to that family. The way they come in, the way they put them in the front of their house for hours, the way they tore their house up. I mean, that's unfortunate to see Americans done like. In fact, my MAGA Minute for Monday is about that. I call them the invasion forces that come in to good American citizens' homes, and yet we have people committing massive crimes across the landscape, and they get a slap on the wrist and released the same day, and almost given the kid glove treatment, almost like celebrities. Let's take care of them. And these are thugs, and we've got people that are just living their life, and somebody made the call on them, and they come out there with all these agents and scare the family and tear their house up, and make them just like you would think they were some sort of invading army or something, the way they treated them, or a massive drug king or something like that. I just think it's interesting it's come down to that. And then on another side of that, isn't it amazing that we have people, again, I'm not trying to put down anybody, but Cardi B is coming out and really in defense of Kamala's campaign. And I mean, it's not the best choice. I know you're trying to hit a certain demographic. The young people are voting, and by the way, in Georgia, that turned out the 18 to 24-year-olds are voting really heavy in Georgia. So these Gen Zers or whatever they call them, they're getting out and voting. And I saw that at the election or the early voting, the precinct, I should say. There was a lot of young people coming in, and they had just registered to vote. Some of them, it was their very birthday was the day they come in. They just turned 18, but they're getting out and voting. It's the first time for many of them. We celebrate all that, but they are getting out and voting. I don't have a clue how they're looking at this thing, but there was quite a block of them in Georgia that came out. So, I know they're trying to hit that demographic, but honestly, it was horrible. She lost her teleprompter, and these people can't function without something in front of them to tell them what to do. And so she's just go, begging for help. Come on. They bring her a phone, and she reads off a phone. She has no way to speak or to I mean, she tried to do a little like this is so exciting, and got everybody hollering, but outside of that, she was lost. And these people choose some really bad, I mean, really bad people to represent them. I mean, sometimes on both sides. I'm not trying to play one side here, but it is true. I said that the comedian, it was not a good move, even though some would it's no big deal, but they're going to use stuff like that. I say don't give them any ammunition. Well, as we said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I did see a picture of her at the Macon rally. Of course, she's in the 14th district over, that represents for that. And so she's in the state of Georgia, and she's back home and was doing that. So first news article I have, and I'm not going to read all through these articles and bore you, but I do want to reference them. The Daily Mail has, and we've seen this over the last week or so, that President Joe Biden is, the outgoing, president. They're kicking to the curb. They've kicked him out. Well, they've kicked him truly to the curb now. They've taken him off the final campaign stops. So he went and had lunch and at a golf club. So he was making some outlandish statements. And of course his one about the garbage that killed him right there, because all these people dressed up for Halloween as garbage. Now we're calling ourselves piles of garbage with a badge of honor. With the deplorable garbage now. It's what a lot of people are saying, and so it was a big gaffe. So he's now done. I'm sure they would roll him out if she was to win. They would probably give him some little parting thing as he rides off into the sunset or whatever. But they're done with him, and so yeah, he's done that all along. But now her campaign, by the way, has changed. We're not hearing about substance, which we've not heard a whole lot of substance anyway. Whereas they were trying to really talk about, economic or whatever, at least a little bit, no plan, but at least referencing the groceries. And she's going to shut these grocers down. Hey, Jeff, she's going to hold the line on these prices. Anybody that understands basic economics knows that where this is going, there'll be people going out of business, and it's not price gouging. They've caused the prices to go up, and they don't want to admit that, so they have to go after the evil grocery owners, who are price gouging. But now they've abandoned all of that. The campaign for the last 24 hours or the next 24 hours. You did, Jeff. Well, then you did good, because the Bengals absolutely ate the lunch of their opponent today. I mean, absolutely. I don't gamble, but you know what? You picked right. I'll say that. And a lot of people were wondering where the Bengals were. That was kind of a gutsy call there, but they had started making a little bit, improvements in their game, but they've been playing rough. But you wrote it out today. But the campaign for Kamala is now this: attack Trump. That's it. So, the name calling Hitler. That I'm not Trump. You don't want Trump, and that's really what we've boiled down to. The common denominator now for the next 24 to 48 hours, whatever. I guess if you think about it that way, it'll roll through until the end of the polls. There, it's just that's it. That's it. Unless they roll out something different. Uh, well, you want it, so you can spend it. But that is the economic, the campaign outlook for Kamala is to just attack Trump fully on. They had to move Biden out of the way because he was kind of failing that. Um, I'm not going to answer that in that way, because I don't. You know what? I don't throw that term around. I really, honestly, don't throw those terms around. There was a Hitler, and he was a evil madman, and I don't make comparisons like that. There's enough evil people in the world today, sure, but I'm very cautious with calling anything using the word Holocaust or using the name Hitler in reference to anything. I think that's really dangerous, and really their argument there falls flat. I mean, like one of the journalists said, I don't remember which news service it was. It might have been Town Hall. Was saying that it was obvious that he wasn't. He was there for 4 years. I mean, if you're going to call somebody that, then basically you're saying that they're going to do similar things, and it's just nobody's listening to that. It's just name calling. But again, um, well, you know what? I've heard those arguments, but I'd say his generals would have disagreed that he was a madman because his call of his war plans in late were horrible. But when you want to totally annihilate a group of people, just pure evil, whatever you want to call it, some want to give him credit, and I know they've attacked President Trump on that and saying, well, he said he had good plans and all that. I've read a lot about his story. I went all the way back and read about him from childhood and really got into his World War I experiences. And if you think about it, the man should have never been in power. He was a starving artist in Munich, a starving artist. He was a very patriotic person who loved his motherland, Germany. But he was a starving artist. That's really all he wanted to do. Some said that's where the hatred came from for the Jewish people because of, uh, I don't know, things that happened around that time. But you know, he he did horrible, evil things, and so no matter if someone's what their IQ level is, if they're doing something like that, I think I mean, you're welcome to your belief on that, but I'm not going to have. I like to talk different things about wars and history and all of that. I'm not saying I don't because I do, but he was what he was, and he did horrible, evil stuff, and so that's that. So when you throw around that term, that's horrible. And let me just say this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next thing. That was Daily Mail that they've taken Biden off the campaign trail. But he's just too dangerous for. That's pretty telling right there if you think about it. That he's to that level that they can't even trust him anymore out there to do anything. So I think that's interesting. But I will say this: that one of the things that we dealt with in ministry, especially in among ministering to Jewish people, is that they identify sometimes Jesus and Hitler as the same kind of thing because they, even though the Third Reich was not Christian, they tried to have it was a religious type thing, and they controlled the churches and they controlled the messaging is what they were doing. So sometimes he was claiming he was doing Christian deeds or whatever. So I've dealt with that myself. I know firsthand. I know, and I've been asked that question. So I'm not making up something that others have done. I've been in those places, and I have sat down with folks who escaped, very 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 elderly who escaped the Holocaust while their family died, and I had to sit and answer those questions. And so that's not something I pulled out of a book. That's real life experience where I've sit there and talked with those folks, and they've asked me that question: how can you promote someone who's like there's a Hitler, and because Hitler did it in his name, why would we want anything to do with that? And so we just start ministering to that, but to teach them of the love of Jesus as Messiah. But anyway. Um, this name again, the name calling is it's not it's really something we don't need in our nation. I mean, let's and both sides have been. I'm really not into that. A lot of people really get into that, but it's like schoolyard thuggery. I mean, I'm not into that. I'm really not. I don't like to stoop to that level. I'm not a perfect man. I've made mistakes, and I'm sure I've said stuff that I shouldn't have said, and I catch myself. And even in humor, we have to be careful. I try to stay clear of that because I don't want it has no productivity to it. And anybody that likes that person, then all you've done is kind of spit in their face, and it just has to have a place. I want to rise above that, and I expect our leaders to rise above that, honestly. And sometimes I'm disappointed in that with different political leaders and calling names like that. But that's what politics it brings the very base attitudes out of people. It's like someone dies in their family. It brings out the worst of the worst of the worst in families. In some of them, the greed over money and possessions and all that stuff. Some people, after mom or grandma or somebody has died, they come to hate each other and they won't talk to each other, and it becomes a real fight over over stuff. And I just it's just horrible. That's where we've got with politics. It's just name calling and ripping each other, and because people want that power, they want to win that seat, and so if they do it, they resort to it. They don't want to play above that. I have seen a few campaigns recently where they have resisted doing that, and I appreciate that. And I think both sides did a great job. Not the presidential, I'm talking about in these other ones that I've known about, where people have. I said, I'm not going to name call. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. I'm going to address policy. I'm going to address economics. I'm going to address crime rate and all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you where it's at, what I'm going to do to make it better. I'm not going to just try to tear down my opponent. I'm going to I believe I'm the better person for the job, and I'm going to tell you what I can do. And I like to see that. We've kind of gotten out in that. Going back to Georgia, Fox News. This was yesterday. Nearly 4 million, as I said, early votes. Uh, they believe this bodes well. This is an article by Elizabeth Elkins. They believe that bodes well for Trump in the state, and a top Republican has said, and that top Republican was Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. So he believes that the enthusiasm, the momentum is with President Trump, and I believe that the Georgia numbers are pretty strong. I do. That's not to say it couldn't change on election day, because it could, but I think it is really strong. It's still tight, but I think the numbers are trending. And if you look at some of the polling, I'm careful with polling, but if you look at some of that, and me and Robert, that's what we spent late afternoon Friday. We were talking over these numbers and doing and we may do some of that tomorrow night, and looking at the electoral journey. And Trump's has a little bit of a twist and turn to it, but he does have a path to victory, or because that it doesn't matter. You can get all the votes, but you can have a majority, but you got to win enough states to have those. You have to have those electoral votes, and he pulled that off in 2016. And okay, I like that. Yes, God bless America. Happy Sunday, and Big Tisley. I like the quote about Einstein, and yes, a frame of reference is very much so. Yes, and so, but the electoral map is, because there's things that Trump has to hold on to if he wants to win. There are some states he just has to have the electoral number, especially like Georgia, North Carolina. I think it's 16 each, or really close to that. I know Georgia's 16. I think North Carolina's in that same vein. But he has to kind of break through that blue wall just a little bit. There's a couple states that's maybe trending his way, and so we may look at that tomorrow night and sort of look at that electoral, kind of how it works for both. It's not as hard for her, but if he can pull enough of those other states, then he'll be okay. I mean, she's got California, New York right off the top, and that's a lot of electoral votes right there. So every Democrat always gets those two. And of course, there's many other states that are going to fall in line with that. And so that's where the Republican journey is. They have to group together a lot of these smaller states. Have to have Texas. Have to have Texas. You can't lose Texas and win. There's no way. That's a lot. That's another big state in the electoral votes. But we'll look at that tomorrow. It's not something I'm going to look at tonight. But we can definitely reference it, because he has to hold the line. I mean, there's states that she has, there's states that he has, and that's not changing. But there are the battleground for those states. Pennsylvania's, and that's where the problems are. Go figure, right? Of course, what's Michigan going to do? Wisconsin. Of course, we said Georgia, North Carolina. Out west, Arizona, Nevada. What are they going to do? Probably not winning Arizona. Got to, or maybe you can get Arizona and maybe not Nevada. I don't know. It's going to be really close. It's razor thin. But Burt Jones, he nearly 4 million. That's pretty amazing if you think about it. Nearly 4 million over 3 weeks early voting just in Georgia. That's pretty strong, I think. And like I said, we were very busy, and we're going to be busy Tuesday. There's no doubt. That was Fox News reporting that with Burt Jones. Another one from Fox News is a Biden appointed judge rules Iowa can check ballots of potential non citizens in blow to ACLU. This is an article by Andrea Margolis. It says the ACLU had sued Iowa for challenging certain votes, but a federal judge has allowed Iowa officials to continue disputing ballots cast by potential non citizens. This is something that needs to happen. So if there's something suspicious there, they can reject those. And it's kind of crazy. Why would you? I guess they're and from the ACLU stance is that they're really targeting Latinos. But listen to me. If a ballot's suspicious, a ballot is suspicious, and that's the way I look at it. But so if there's something that pops up, then they can reject those. So he's given them the power to do that. That was Judge Stephen Locher. He wasn't appointed of President Biden, so he ruled in favor of Iowa, the Hawkeye State. It says here, and so the SLU suffers a blow there. Now there's a couple other, and we're going to get to one of those in just a minute when we come back to Georgia and we talk about this that happened over the weekend. There it is happening over the weekend. I guess not now. It's gotten so late, but let's see here. Let's go over to Newsmax. Trump and one of his rallies was talking about, points out the gaps in Pennsylvania rally bulletproof glass. He was kind of joking around and talking a little bit about, what was done or what wasn't done. He went on to praise the Secret Service, but I think he recognized that there was some problems there. Um, you know, but he was basically saying his opponents didn't want him to have the glass or hope there was gaps in the glass. And so, he's stumping all over these states and, and trying to stay in front of them as much as he can. Of course, she is as well. But that was one of the stories on Newsmax was his comments about that. Let's see here. Let's go on down. There's a couple more that I really wanted to get to before I take a break. Let's see here. Let's see what this one is. Okay. That's not the one I wanted. Let's go back. Again, it is a happy Sunday. I'm thankful for the Lord and the day we had. It's been an absolutely blessing of a day. Trump said one of his quotes today was in this rally that the Democratic Party, not its voters, is demonic. So he's appealing out to some of the party members that maybe have not voted and realizing, and that tells me that they believe they can pull some of those in the center, near the center left. And that they, basically saying that your party has left you. They're demonic. They pulled away, and of course, that's strong language, but I agree with it. But they have left them. I mean, if you were center left, if you were really close to center, I mean, where's your party went? I could imagine. If I would be calling myself a Republican if I'd went that far to the right. Now, there's people in the Republican Party that's pretty far out there, but as a whole, it's not that crazy or what's going on here. But so he's making those last minute pitches, and there's quite a few. I mean, there's a lot of votes to be had that don't like either candidate, but they want to vote. Do they vote for the third party, or they did not vote, or can they pull them in? And I think that was where the comments that Mark Cuban said. I think he realized it because they're using all these people to come out: Bruce Springsteen, Mark Cuban, Cardi B. The list goes on and on. J Lo. I mean, they're just constantly rolling out these entertainers, propping her up. And one of the things they were talking about, Mark Cuban was trying to attack him and saying, and of course, it was another gaffe that there were no strong, smart women around him. He was trying to make the point he don't want them around him. Well, he's dumb and wrong because he has strong and smart women around him. He was trying to make a play. For another a candidate who wasn't there, basically saying, don't vote for him if you were for her, Nikki Haley. He was trying to they basically appeal to Nikki Haley voters they're not going to vote for him because they were for her and she's not there. and Trump don't want strong women like that around. Well, that's as bad a gaffe as the garbage, and so we now have all the strong conservative Christian women, coming out and saying, "Hey, look, buddy, who are you calling? Saying they're not smart or whatever. That it's not, there's no smart women around them or whatever." And so, again, this is a party of gaffes. I mean, they just continue to say dumb things on the. I mean, there's a lot of things he could have said that was just dumb, and of course that gave President Trump a chance to really blast him a little bit. He enjoyed doing that. I don't think there's any love lost between them. It's not the first time that Mark Cuban has made some dumb comments. By the way, if you follow him, he needs to stick with his basketball team. So he he like her, and more so him, because honestly, I don't see her really trying to pull those people in. Again, the campaign has relegated itself to "I'm not Trump. Trump is evil. Don't vote for him." I mean, they're not really making an appeal of any kind. Let's see here, another one. We're going to stay with Newsmax. Dick Morris, who is paid, he's paid to report for Newsmax. Of course, he's a long time back was a Clinton strategist and helped them with campaigns. But he's wrote several books. But he spoke on this, that Harris is running on not Trump. That's what he told Newsmax, that her campaign messaging has shifted from joy. Because again, in the beginning, it was a lot of joy, right? Hey, look, I'm young, I'm hip, we're going to be fun. This is the party of fun. And old Joe, they didn't say it that way, but old Joe's out. We're going to get rid of this other old guy. And he's, this is going to be fun. And she's dancing across the stage. He said, well, it's not joy anymore. It's just not Trump. And there hasn't been a lot of joy. I mean, after she faced some of them were liberal news journalists grilling her, and she didn't like it. Her smile wiped off her face. She got you could tell she was not happy and mad at some of the questions, and they've refused to answer a lot of those. So, like he said, if Trump was a devoted follower of Adolf Hitler, we would have known that during the first 4 years, and not doing that. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow to see how the campaigns what they say, those talking points for tomorrow. I'm anxious to see some of that, what is said, because that's it. I mean, Tuesday everybody goes that hasn't went, and all the other votes are in. So a lot of this is moot anyway because. But yeah, in the middle of all this political talk, there's an article on the New York Post, and if you haven't heard the story, I think you have to be under a rock not to have heard about it. But they want to know who ratted out Peanut the squirrel, and the grieving owners have a theory about that. This has really gripped a lot of people. I mean, animal lovers and people that love to watch these folks online. And I've seen some of the videos and stuff they did, and the good they were trying to do with it. But they, somebody ratted them out, and they showed up out there and, came in like, the jackboot army and come in there on these people. So that's another story that's out there. I mean, you've had to see some of the memes online, the squirrels and the chipmunk or whatever, and they've got their Trump hats on, and they're marching, carrying Trump signs and all this stuff. I mean, people are great. It's funny. This is a fun time of season for the memes and for the little videos, the shorts, and everything like that they do for these different ones. There's been tons of funny ones about Trump too. I had to chuckle at many of them. I like that kind of stuff. It's like the celebrity roast. They spend their time going after all of them. Nobody gets a pass. But this is another gaffe. I mean, even though the campaign didn't do it, it's directly going to the campaign. I mean, the person that made the call or sent them out, they've had to scrub all their social media now. I mean, they're letting them know, how much they don't appreciate what's going on. But again, isn't it amazing? They will call out and go after people like this, but they won't get illegals out of the nation. They won't keep people in jail. They no bail, and try to get them released. And you want people to be here illegally, but they'll go after people like this. Kind of tells you all you need to know. And honestly, this is not the first time. I mean, some of the stuff that they've tried to do, whether you like some of these people are not, or it's not the point. The way they've come after some of the folks, and they've come in on their family. They come in, and by the way, Three Letter Network there got early. They were embedded with them as they come in, looking like a paramilitary group. I mean, machine guns raised up, pulling the family out in cuffs in the dead of the night, and just basically trying to destroy them. And in some cases, they have, at least financially, because of things that they don't like they said or whatever. And of course, Roger Stone was one of those. And I've read his story a lot and how they still to this day are trying to hurt and destroy Roger Stone. It's caused them health issues. Their finances, I mean, they lost everything basically. And he's out there and he does his own podcast. He has a lot of followers. I watch him sometimes. He sells merch and does ads and stuff. Trying to make a living and pay for the doctor bills they have and stuff like that. One of the things you can get, I think that's neat. I'll give a little plug for Roger Stone. Is you can go on his website and among the things they sell, and it's not that expensive. If you can get a copy of the pardon that President Trump gave him, and it'd be kind of neat to have framed up and in the house. Um, and it's not expensive. I mean, it's a copy. It's no intrinsic value like that, but it is kind of neat. And but if you listen to him, he'll tell you how they've tried to destroy it. This guy's his political knowledge is deep, and I'd love to read. I've not had time, but I'd love to read his books about the Kennedys and some of the stuff that I mean, he was there with Nixon and all these different people. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you like them or not. It's obvious if you are on the side, if you're not on the side of who's in power, I mean, they're coming after you now. And everyday citizens look at some of the grandmas and stuff at J6 and all that, and what they've done with them and doing to them. Steve Bannon finally got out. I think he finally got out, right? Steve Bannon. They on purposely kept him in after the release date. He just said, I'm not gonna comply with your court order over this. I don't believe in it. And so they sent him to jail. He went and he served his time, and they extended that, and they had to get a court order or something to get him out. They violated it. And they admit they violated it. They know they violated it. They don't care. So yeah, it's just crazy. Um, the whether you like Alex Jones or not, if the way they've done him, and they're still. I mean, he's trying to change. You get a lot of his stuff shifted over to a new entity. I'm sure that's going to have to be in somebody else's name because they've got this. What is it? Something crazy like a $300 million judgment against him. He expects him to come in any time and take over all of their equipment and stuff. And so he's kind of. I watched him last night actually for about an hour, and he's got a new name. It's Infowars. I don't know if he'll even be able to use that. They still sell under that though, and there are some new merch stuff that he has, and some limited stuff. But they're just trying to pay the bills. I mean, they're trying to pay they've had to let some people go. They're trying to pay for the airtime and the equipment and the salaries and all that stuff. I mean, these are people's jobs and their livelihood. And again, I'm not defending what he said, but isn't that where we're at in America? Is if somebody don't like what you said, they just try to destroy you. And we're seeing that with President Donald J. Trump. I mean, the only reason that this guy, what if he didn't have the money that he had? It just cost him so much. What if he didn't have that kind of resources? He'd be in the same boat as them. Um, you know, he's got a lot of people. I mean, you can imagine the lawyer fees he has. I mean, this team of lawyers he has, and just it continues to go on, and they're going to keep coming after it. And I would say this, and I'll speak more on it maybe tomorrow night with Rob. But I just think, and I think most people feel it, that if President Trump, again, we're going to vote, and we're going to try to see him elected. But if he's elected, what will happen in that time between then and January 20th, 2025? What's going to happen in that time frame? That's interesting to talk about and to think about. What things will be tried, because you still have a party in power. So usually that is a time where a lot of things there's no great. major decisions made. By the way, they just sent another 425 million to Ukraine. That didn't get much airplay. 425 million. Think about that. Uh, the Middle East is aflame. Israel's pounding southern Lebanon. I mean, there's lots going on. It's just not even hardly getting in the news much right now. But think what would happen if he wins on Tuesday. If it is announced Tuesday night early, I suspect it'll be early Wednesday morning before we know anything. I'm just guessing. I could be wrong. What would if he is the winner? He is the winner. No court challenges. He's the winner. What will happen between Tuesday night, or we'll say Wednesday, November 6th, and January 20th? That's interesting to think about. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Let me talk through a couple of my ads, and I appreciate you hanging with us and letting us do that. You know, we're trying to partner in affiliations and stuff. We've got some more stuff on the way. But I do want to tell you, well, just you don't have to. It's just the stuff we cover, stuff we're doing. But W Energy drinks, and I'm going to have some of those in soon. I've got one of the shakers in, but they do the powders and the packets and the drinks themselves. You order them in and use the Southern Fried promo code. You get 10% off. Now they'll give you a 10% off, I think, for you to give an email. But if you use Southern Fried, you can save yourself, signing up with an email. And you'll still get that, and it helps us. They give us a portion of that if anyone so does that. So using the Southern Fried. And Mammoth Nation, we're all trying to do things that are patriotic, American, America First, veteran affiliations and all of that. Mammoth Nation, and it's all American-made products. And, I'll say you'll find everything there. They're getting more and more people to come online every day. There's a lot of stuff there, though. And you can become a monthly $5 subscriber to Mammoth Nation, and that's the lowest level they have, and get access to those goods and services and stuff. So Mammoth Nation, these are official. We're not just throwing these out. We have done the necessary steps to be approved to be an affiliate of these two organizations, and we're happy about that. And as well, you can see if you just want to donate to us and help us along, the money will all go to keep Southern Fried growing, and equipment or paying for fees or whatever it is. There's things that everybody has expense, and we just take care of all that. We've not made any money. We're not trying to leave our jobs or nothing like that. We're just trying to make this podcast the best it can be. And so there's the PayPal and the Venmo if you so help. And I would like to do that and can do that. Nowadays it's hard for anybody to do much, but every little bit helps, and so we appreciate that. And then also our store. And we have so many items at the store. And of course, I'm drinking out of the Southern Fried Podcast coffee mug tonight. That's what I use nightly with that. And I've got my hat. I don't have it on tonight, but I like it. It's a great fitting hat. I love it. So there are campaigns that are ran all the time. Different weeks have different campaigns. Sometimes there's 20%, sometimes 10%. But it'll basically help you in your shipping charges if you go to the store and you find something you like. There's things that are very reasonable, and they go all the way up. There's things a little more expensive. If you're talking about a hoodie or something, those things are a little more expensive to get. Well, let me run a quick ad for the store. We're gonna show some new items or some different items this week. I'm going to cut a new commercial and show some of those things, and we're going to embed our links more for the store. We appreciate those that have already purchased. Be right back. The Southern Fried Podcast now has its own store. Go to sfplive.com/store. These links are also found on Facebook and X and some of the other social streams. You will find shirts and hats and mugs and bags and all kinds of items with many different designs. These are just but a few of the more than 250 items that we have with different designs. We hope you'll come and shop, support the podcast. Every dollar that is paid will go towards keeping the podcast growing, and we thank you for your support. sfplive.com/store. Go shop today and get that favorite person in your life their Southern Fried Podcast item, and it'll help us advertise the podcast as you wear these things or take these things out into the public. We thank you for your support. If you have any questions, email us at southernfriedpodcast@yahoo.com. We'll be glad to answer. We're running some specials as well, 20, 25, and even 30% off in some cases. This will eliminate the mailing charges for sure. So go to sfplive.com/store for your Southern Fried Podcast items today. Remember, Christmas is just around the corner. Thank you. Come listen to Mama Said on the Southern Fried Podcast each Monday night at 7 p.m. We love those things that Mama said. Mama had a lot to say to us, and we appreciate it. It means a lot to us. God was good to us when he gave us the gift of mothers. And we'll never forget our mom. Be they living or deceased, moms are powerful in our life, and they shared a lot of things with us. We love to talk about those things on Monday night. Sometimes we invite guests up to be a part of the show, but we'll be live, and we'll have lots to say. Come join us each Monday night at 7 p.m. live on the Southern Fried Podcast on your social media network that you follow. The Southern Fried Podcast is pleased to announce our newest show called Southern Talk. We merged two shows called Manners and Mannerisms 101 into this new show that we felt would better fit our interest in talking all things Southern. So join us for Southern Talk, where we still cover all those manners and customs that we are known for in the South. But now we can expand the topics and reach of this show in a show called Southern Talk with Rob and Dave. All right, I'm back. Sorry for a little delay there. I was trying to sign back into my account for the Epic Times because I was going to read, at least reference an article from there, not read. I like the Epic Times, and I don't have but a couple of subscriptions out there, but I do like them. They do a good job of covering a lot of things across the world, especially campaigns. But this was late this afternoon. In fact, just not long ago, just some of the updates. Harris is in Michigan. Trump hit 3 swing states on the final Sunday before election. Of course, we mentioned Pennsylvania and Georgia. Harris was barnstorming in Michigan, East Lansing rally. She's a quote from her in this article, which let me give credit to the author. It just says the Epic Times staff, so it's a compilation of articles and reports. But she told the audience, "We have momentum." I don't think that's true, but she says we have momentum. It's on our side. Can you feel it? Well, I can feel that you've had a meltdown of gaffes and stuff lately, and it's not went well. But maybe it feels that way to her. Of course, they're not going to go out and say we're losing or things are not going good. But again, you're trying to fire up your base. People are excited. One person said, Jackie Jerome March, 57 of Detroit, said, "I want to see history." Well, it's all historical. I mean, it's all. I get though why she's saying that. I get that, or he, excuse me. Jackie's one of those names that can go different ways, right? But they had to talk to another voter, 18-year-old freshman at Michigan State, said they'd already voted for Harris. "It's my first year of voting. I'm really excited. She's a black woman in office. She needs all the support she can get." Again, that's the beauty of America, and we're glad that they went and voted. In response to Harris's question, who has voted already? Who here has voted already? It appeared that more than half of the audience responded with a raised hand. She urged listeners to encourage friends and family members to vote as well. I'd say that's true for both campaigns. I would say if you ask that question just about anywhere, you would get that. She also went to Greater Emmanuel Institutional Church of God in Christ in Detroit, stopped there for attended services, went to Kuzo's Chicken and Waffles in Detroit. Greater patron shook hands, was joined by Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Detroit Mayor Mike Dugan. Next stop, they went to the Elam Barbershop in Pontiac, where she participated in a moderated conversation with black men and with leaders from Pontiac, Detroit, according to the Harris campaign. At the evening rally, some attendees said they were driven to support Harris based on their top issues. And of course, we know what one of them would be. "I'm passionate about reproductive rights and LGBT support." said Jessica Carter, 50 of Jackson, told the Epic Times. I'm here with my two daughters, ages 18 and 22. I came to support their freedom as well. Jeremy Matthew, 49 of Ann Arbor. His views, he views this election as pivotal. I think we've all said that. We would all agree on that. The election is more important than any in my lifetime, he told the Epic Times, having grown up in Atlanta during the racial tensions of the 1980s. Matthew said, I've seen what it used to be like. Trump is trying to send us back there. Of course, that's from their side. Early voting closed in Michigan at 4:30 p.m. Sunday. I didn't know they even did that on Sunday. It's interesting. Those citizens can register. This is interesting. There's 22 states that allow this, and this is one of them. Citizens can register and cast an absentee ballot in person at their local clerk's office on Monday and Election Day. There was that, and I'm going to get to it in a minute, about Georgia, the 4 counties in Georgia which allowed drop-offs over the weekend. I don't think those were big numbers. A lot of people were concerned about that. Nobody was arguing the point that they could do it, but they wanted observers. The RNC wanted Republican observers. They rejected that. But apparently it was not. I don't even know why they did that, honestly. It didn't sound like they needed to from what I was reading. But then we have bad news. Pennsylvania investigating possible fraudulent voter registration forms, top election official says. So this is not, some conspiracy news out here. This is them saying this. The top election official confirmed his office is investigating potentially fraudulent voter registration applications after authorities in multiple counties reported the issue, noting that the discovery of possible fraudulent registrations are absolutely troubling. That was a quote. Pennsylvania Secretary of the Commonwealth Al Schmidt told local news outlet ABC 27 Sunday that Lancaster County is doing what every county does, which is to determine whether voter registration applications are legitimate. So that's concerning. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of that. And they also do a little bit of an article on Medicare, chronic disease, and drug prices, where Trump and Harris stand on health policy. Her big thing is she's been saying she's going to, and Biden, she got this from Biden, capping the insulin cost and some of that. And of course, hers was to, the price gouging of groceries. But that's kind of where that out. Harris confirms that she voted by mail back into California. She would not say how she voted on California's crime measure. And that is this measure launched by Californians for safer communities and supported by retail giants Walmart and Target. The measure would reverse portions of Prop 47, which was passed by voters in 2014 to reduce prison population by lowering certain drug possession and theft charges from felonies to misdemeanors. Harris passed on the question while speaking with reporters on Sunday. Again, it's her right to say how she voted. I have no problem with that. But honestly, in this case, she probably, she doesn't want to answer the question. It's not if she was not worried about that being an issue, she would have gladly said it. I don't see. I think it's just where she's at on that, and so she don't want to push away voters. Again, giving you some of those numbers, I saw this earlier. The 2024 presidential election is the first in which the majority of the Gen Zs, which are born between 1997 and 2012 and currently aged between 12 and 27, leaves a huge block that could vote, will be eligible to vote, often called Gen Z or Zoomers. The newest generation of voters aged 18 to 27 tend to have an outlook different from the older generations, which is common for any generations that come after yours. They make up roughly 20% of the U.S. population. The article goes on to say, but they're greatly outnumbered in voter registration by older generations. An April study found that fewer than 40% were registered to vote. So even though there's been a huge turnout, it's still less than 40%. The last one in this one, before we move to the next one, Trump praises hurricane victims for early voting in North Carolina. This is Jeff Lauterbach 3 hours ago in Kingston, North Carolina, probably about 4 hours ago now. Early voting in North Carolina ended on November 2nd, a day later, hours before President Donald Trump took the stage at a rally in Kingston. The State Board of Elections reported that more than 4.2 million residents cast early voting ballots, a record number. Turnout in the 25 western North Carolina counties impacted by Hurricane Helene was 58.9%, around 2% higher than the statewide total. God bless them. All they went through. So in Kingston, Trump praised the people who voted early in areas where homes and businesses were swept away by mudslides and flooding from Helene. Wow. And one, I did say last one, but I saw this as well. Trump rally supporters in Amish country and swing through Pennsylvania. God bless them folks. They've been through a lot, right? I mean, that's strong. Tell me people don't think this is a pivotal election. Absolutely, they do. On both sides. I mean, they do. They're taking this serious, and that's a good thing. Here's one, and by the way, RFK Jr., Robert Kennedy Jr., said that told his supporters do not write his name in the ballot, or if his name is on there, some of them they couldn't get his name out. Don't vote for me. If you want to see me in Washington, vote for Donald Trump. So that was his message Sunday to voters for election day: is do not vote for me on the ballot or write my name in, but to vote for Donald Trump. On that note, I brought that up because I wanted to do a lead in to RFK. This has been a huge thing. I don't know how much you really paid attention to it, but a lot of people have put a lot of attention on the fluoride in the drinking water. Well, RFK Jr. and this is also an Epic Times piece. He says that Trump would push to end adding fluoride to drinking water. He's been really big in this area about different things related to health. He made a reference to a September ruling from a judge that ordered the EPA to address fluoridation concerns. Former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that former President Donald Trump will seek to end public water fluoridation if he's elected president. On January 20th, the Trump White House will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water. Kennedy, who Trump said will be part of his administration if he wins on November 5th, wrote in a post on social media platform X over the weekend. Kennedy then made reference to a landmark ruling from that district judge who directed the U.S. EPA to address those concerns whether fluoridation can lead to lower IQ in children. The American Dental Association and related medical groups said they disagree with the ruling and repeated their recommendation that fluoride be added to drinking water supplies. Fluoride is an industrial waste associated with arthritis, bone fractures, bone cancer, IQ loss, neurodevelopmental disorders, and thyroid disease, Kennedy wrote on X. Since 1945, U.S. municipalities have added fluoride to tap water in a bid to combat tooth decay. U.S. Public Health Service recommends that water systems have a fluoride level of 0.7 milligrams per liter. A report issued earlier this year by the National Toxicology Program, an agency within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, found that high levels of fluoride in other countries could be tied to lower IQ levels in children. The agency found that drinking water levels with 1.5 milligrams of fluoride per liter could pose a problem in children. For the past 5 decades, the recommended upper range has been 1.2 milligrams per liter. The WHO, the World Health Organization, has set a safe limit in fluoride in drinking water of 1.5 milligrams. Interesting. This has been a big issue. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. So anyway, I won't go through the rest of that, but it goes on with a few more things. He is pushing for a few other proposals. So he's working that side of the street from those issues. So, but that falls in line with some of the things. That's why he really got on the radar, not just the name, but some of the stuff that he was covering about COVID and different things. They really did. He really did make a name for himself among a lot of conservatives for some of the stuff that he was speaking about. So I'll be interested to know what your opinions are on that. What do you think that this is good to have in the drinking water or not? There's a lot of people are questioning a lot of different stuff that we've just been told that we're going to do, and it's good for us. I think more and more people are questioning that across the country and the world, really. I mean, we all have seen some of the stuff that they've done in Africa with some vaccinations and stuff, and we've seen some of those things have been, they basically told them to leave. They were causing so many problems there, the health of the children in Africa. They're supposed to be there to be helping them, but they hurt them. Makes you wonder sometimes, right? I was vaccinated as a kid. My children were vaccinated. My grandchildren were vaccinated. But you never know. There's always side effects. There's things we're trying to keep, childhood diseases down. It's controversial both ways. So I just think that's interesting that he's working that like that. So right there at the last minute, right there as we get down to crunch time. Let me get a couple more here before we get off the air tonight. Again, I mentioned that this I wanted to come to it. This absentee ballot drop off in Georgia. This is from the Epic Times as well, and I'm trying to see who. This is from Tom Ozemic. This was posted. It was updated today. It was an article. Actually, it was written yesterday, but updated today. I just want to touch on a couple things here. The plaintiff said the lack of poll watchers to observe the absentee ballot intake by local election officials compromised election integrity. A Georgia judge, however, had dismissed a Republican lawsuit attempting to prevent counties from operating election offices over the weekend to accept hand-delivered absentee ballots. The GOP plaintiffs argued that Fulton County's decision to open, it's always Fulton County, right? Always. They weren't the only one here, but they're always involved, or they're the ringleader, right? Fulton County's decision to open election offices on November 2nd and 3rd, where voters could hand deliver absentee ballots directly to registrars, was so unsupported by state law and violated rules requiring that ballot boxes be locked after early voting, which ended Friday. Plaintiffs said the lack of poll watchers to observe for the absentee or mail-in ballot intake by local election officials compromised election integrity. During a court hearing, Fulton County Judge Kevin Farmer denied the emergency petition filed by the Republican plaintiffs late on November 1st, which we heard about. He said that state law allows for voters to hand deliver absentee ballots directly to registrars, that no ballot drop boxes were open at the election offices that Fulton County decided to keep open over the weekend. And of course, the Republicans argued against that petition, asked for the judge to approve a temporary restraining order, preliminary injunction, and permanent injunction, providing that defendants, as well as their officers, agents, servants, employees, attorneys, and any persons acting in active concert or participation with them, shall not permit persons to hand return their absentee ballot in violation of the Georgia Code, which they give two of them. Attorney Alex Kaufman, representing the Republican plaintiffs, argued that there were no provisions in this code for voting for absentee ballot advanced voting that allow hand delivery to registrar. Judge disagreed. Reading the language, he goes on and makes that agree. I just want to get down to this, his quote, that seems to indicate that personal delivery to the registrar and not to a drop box is kosher. Farmer added more than kosher, lawful. How he read that in the law, in the code. So they kind of tried to reference from another way. He shot that down as well. Donating Williams, director of the Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections, said during the hearing that the elections offices where hand-delivered ballots are being accepted over the counter are not polling locations, and poll watchers have never been allowed to observe these places. Kaufman also asked Williams, and so you contend that you have voluntary Fulton County monitors, and that's a sufficient safeguard? Is that your position? End quote. This prompted the judge to intervene and say that this would require Williams to make an unwarranted legal conclusion. Anyway, this back and forth, but the Fulton County spokesperson Jessica Corbett Dominguez said that by mid-afternoon Saturday, fewer than 30 ballots had been received at the 4 locations. So again, ask the question, why? Why did they have to do this? Why was there such a need to do this over the weekend? Why? If there was less than 40 or 30, or whatever it was. What was that? It was fewer than 30. fewer than 30 by mid-Saturday afternoon. There might have been some come in today, but whatever that number is now, why? I mean, they made it sound like there was this massive need to do that over the weekend. I'm not saying there's anything nefarious going on. Some people have said that. I'm saying, it's questionable. But the judge has a right to rule on that. These, you know, anyway, there it is. It's people not going to like that. It's not like things that make things look like, things are not being done the correct way. And I'll get to one last one. This was from townhall.com. Let's talk about Tim Walz's closing argument. Just going to reference a few things in here. Tim Walz used the final stretch of their day to evade the policy positions again, but also do nothing else but attack Trump during his rally in Arizona on Saturday. Walz told the crowd that Trump was a dictator and trying to overturn the Constitution. He posed a hypothetical question, asking the audience what they did to stop Trump from winning another term in the White House, claiming that the American experiment was on the line. Well, yeah, it is, because they put it on the line. Governor Walz, this is released on social media from Kamala headquarters. Governor Walz, there will come a day when you're going to be sitting on that rocking chair, and the little ones are going to ask you, when everything else was on the line and there was somebody running who asked to be a dictator and wanted to overturn the Constitution and talked about, let me pull the rest of this up because it's clipped, because I want to see that. I hate pulling it up from there. I like to give them any kind of a view. But let's see where that's that again. If you want to know what they would do, what's your answer going to be? What did you do? And I think there's going to be a lot of people could ask the same question about what did we do to stop what was being said. What did you do to stop that from happening? So that was his closing message for the weekend. What did you do? Well, I know what I've done. I voted, and I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I voted for Donald J. Trump. I won't hide that. I'm a Christian conservative, and I just can't. I can't. So vote for however you want to vote. I'm not here to tell you how to vote. You know the issues. Look at them. Top race. Don't think because of anything that anybody said your vote doesn't count or it doesn't matter. Get out and vote. Number one, you have the right to vote. Express your right to vote. Do it just for the sake of doing it. And then, I say, because every vote's needed. And sometimes elections do come down. There'll be no runoff unless there's an absolute tie. That's not going to happen. So go vote. Go vote. And tomorrow night, we're going to look at this, the electoral journey. We're going to look at what's already most likely in each camp, what's trending that way, what is a complete toss-up, and kind of what that journey looks like. We'll break out the old chalkboard or something. And we'll work that Tuesday night. We are going to have a running electoral tally that's on the screen. We'll bring that down and update it as states go for either candidate. So that's the 270, and you got to get to there and ahead of your opponent. So looking at that really, when you break it down that way, it really shows you what this comes down to. And so that's why they're in Michigan. That's why they're in Pennsylvania. That's why they're in Arizona. That's why they're in Nevada. That's why they're in Georgia, and why they're in North Carolina, because those are places that are still in play. A lot of places are probably not. They're already fully into the camp. They know those numbers, and of course they're still going to ask for everybody to vote. But they're realists. They understand the numbers don't lie. California is going Kamala. Trump was never going to get California. New York's going to go Kamala, and he's got states in his, so to speak, in his back pocket too. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for being a part of the SFP. If I can get it out, news desk, Christian and conservative news. Pray for our nation. A lot on the line. Again, pray for peace and safety and security for all. We do not violence in this nation. It's not good. If you haven't voted, go vote. If you voted, just pray for those. Encourage those that have not voted and your family, friends, acquaintances. Please go vote. If they need a ride, give them a ride. That's what we got to do. You know, take people if they need it, and we'll sit there and we'll take a pause as a nation, so to speak. This is always very fascinating to me. People are still not doing their jobs, but it seems as though the nation sort of pauses for a second, and all the eyes are on two people, and what that moment must feel like. I remember many elections. I remember the night Jimmy Carter won. I remember the first both Ronald Reagan victories. I remember, when Clinton won and Obama, George W., Daddy Bush, George W., all the way down Donald J. Well, it was what a night, 2016, the heartbreak of 2020 for conservatives. And here we are in 2024. What a journey. Remember those, Ones we can use the sports terminology, right? The old ABC, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. That's truly it. I do say this that after this is over, no matter who wins, there's undoubtedly been probably well over $1 billion spent. That's kind of where this goes now on campaigns, if you count them both, but well over $1 billion spent on the presidential election. You think of all the campaign stops, all the rallies, all the interviews. It's endless. It all culminates into this point, Tuesday, November 5th. The country pauses to look at who's going to carry us the next 4 years, who's going to be representing us in foreign countries. Who's going to be standing at the podium. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Who's going to be sitting at the desk in the Oval Office in that chair? Who's going to sit there? That chair's not been sat in a whole lot lately. Not much at all. Who's going to sit in that chair? Who's going to pull the pin out? I don't have the official pin, and this one's even red. Who's going to pull the pin out on the first day and start making executive decisions? Because they both will, no matter who wins. Who's going to have that? He's going to have all those black books stacked up and they're signing. They got all that stuff's will be got ready after the election. Who's going to be doing that? Who's going to be standing there getting sworn in to be the president for the next 4 years? It's a lot to think about, a lot to consider. It's a party night. All the problems going on, they're going to party that night, whoever wins, if there's an announced winner. And over the next week, there's a lot of parties. Washington becomes a big party town. Lots of fun. You can't even go to them all. There's so many different functions that are thrown. I used to work with a guy that was in one of those parades. I think it's for Ronald Reagan. You got to be in one of those. Knew somebody who knew somebody, and got to go to Washington and be in that. Didn't go to all those parties. Just went there for the parade and come home. It's a lot going on. What's our military personnel going to be sitting there thinking on election night, sitting around and right there at the DMZ between North and South Korea, sitting on bases in Japan, Germany, and other locations all around the globe, serving on ships and submarines, flying the planes in the air. You know, who's going to be leading? Who's special forces, CIA, all those people looking at this? Let's think about it. Yeah, what are Americans going to think of? What are our allies going to think? You know, who's Britain going to think? What is Israel going to think? Australia, different places are our allies. What are they going to think? What is our enemies going to think? What are the enemies going to think? What is she? Like Trump says that. She. What's China going to think? What's Taiwan going to think? Right there, you got the big bear, big beast looking over them, threatening them every day. What's Russia going to think? What is Vladimir going to think on election night? What is our little military man in Ukraine, Zelensky? What is he going to think? Lot to consider, right? What are the Americans that are being held hostage going to think? Are they going to think they got a chance now, or they're doomed forever? And we got Americans still being held hostage. American citizens. Nobody talks about them anymore. What are they going to think? What's Iran going to think? What's the other Arab states going to think? A lot to consider. A lot to consider. It's not something trivial. It has far-reaching and far-ranging power. The transfer of power. We need the peaceful transfer of power. And in this case, there is the peaceful transfer of power, even though she's already the vice president, because she's not the president. It's still a peaceful. It needs to be a peaceful transition if it's her. You know, so goes the nation. You know, what's the Congress going to look like after this election? Who's going to be out? Who's going to be in? What's the makeup there? There's very thin margins, very thin. Could it be a clean sweep? I don't know if that's possible this time. Could it be all Democrat? President, vice president, Senate, House? Could it all be there? Will something happen to the Supreme Court over the next 4 years if it's her? Will she be allowed to put forth a candidate to replace? You know, a couple of them are up there. You know, would that happen? Will they pack the court? These are all questions that are important to answer. What's going to happen to all the illegals? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to the border? No. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to the energy process and food process? What's going to happen to our jobs? So it's big. It's big. What does that mean for us? You know, it's out here hard working, getting it done every day. What does that mean for us? What does it mean for you personally? And we'll all feel something Tuesday night. You know, thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Must be on our faces in prayer to an almighty God, because God is ultimately in control. And just remember this on Tuesday: if it doesn't go your way, God's still in control. You got to remember that. God's still in control. And one day, our great King, and yes, we will have a king one day. We do presidents now, but we'll have a king. His name is Jesus. He's going to show up, and his government, that government that rests upon his shoulders, will be a perfect theocracy. One day his feet will step down the Mount of Olives, and the ground will shake, and he will reclaim what's his one day. So yes, Colt, God bless America. We do need the blessing of God. We need to be in prayer for our nation. And I believe that there are little churches, big churches, Christians all across this land that are praying fervently for our nation. There's not a service that goes by that we're not speaking or praying for the nation. There's not a show that goes by that we do on here that we don't talk about praying for the nation. So there's a lot of prayers going up. God hears those prayers. He's taking care of it. This is a pivotal moment. Yes, it always is. Anytime you have a change this big, it's big. It has far-reaching effects. And so I think we need to think about that tonight as we think about it. If you haven't voted, why? Go vote. Go vote and be a good citizen. Do your part. And then all you can do is sit back and watch like all the rest of us and pray. Pray for us as we're there on election day. Pray that it'll all go smoothly. No problems. You know, be thankful for those people that are stepping up to want to be a citizen that gives back and does more and gives of their time. Yeah, they're paid for it, but it's not a lot of money. So they're not doing it for that. I talked to no one that ever came on board as a poll worker for money. They didn't even know they got paid. They thought it was volunteering. I can tell you, I've talked to old veterans. They're all retired, and they're like, they pay us for this? I just wanted to give back. I just wanted to help. I love my country. I love the United States of America. That's what they'll tell you. I salute the flag. I love that flag. I love this country. It's been good to me. That's what they'll say. I'll say the same thing. We're so blessed to be born here in this land. We got to do all we can to protect its greatness. And America's not going to collapse Tuesday because of an election. But the effects of those things that hurt our nation could be far-reaching, yes, into the future. But the sun's still going to come up on Wednesday morning. The moon is still going to shine. The sun is still going to shine. The moon is being illuminated by the sun. The stars are still going to hold their place, and we'll still be on a perfect axis that God's holding this world together. And maybe we'll be a part of it. Nobody's guaranteed tomorrow, but maybe we'll be a part of it. Maybe I'll even be a part of this election. Don't know. Can't guarantee those things because I don't know when my time is. But I know if God allows, I'll be there and I'll be a part of it. And so you just ask you to pray for that. Hey, we'll see you in the morning show. If you're up, join us 6 a.m. It may be too early for some of you. Got the night owls in here. And then we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll look at many things leading into Election Day. All right. Good day. God bless. We'll see you soon. And we always say in the church, we'll meet you on the air here, or we'll meet you in the air, because we don't ever know when the catching way of the church is going to be. It's coming soon. Amen. Good night and God bless.